that again. Good afternoon to you, St. Lucia, and welcome to another edition of Hardtalk here on Fire 107.7 FM. I'm your host, Angie, and today is April 1st, 2026, a very special day in the regular calendar of events, and not for the reasons that you guys are thinking. I know you guys are out there thinking stuff. Yeah, I tried to do a little something. I tried to play the ad twice and make you guys wonder, is she coming on today? Is she not coming on today? It didn't work. I love being on this platform with you guys way too much for it to for me to stay away. It's not going to happen. I promise you that as long as I am able, as long as I can be here, I will be here on Hard Talk, ensuring that we discuss the issues that matter. But today, today, April 1st, is a special day because today marks the beginning of the countdown for the naming of the island's Commissioner of Police. You would recall that Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre said that the island will receive a new Commissioner of Police, and that individual will be named either today, that individual, he says, will be named between April 1st and April 15th. It is April 1st, of course. Let me just double check. Yup, Wednesday, April 1st, 2:08 p.m. in the afternoon, or as they say in legal terms, in the forenoon. And so we, the people, we are eagerly anticipating the choice for Commissioner of Police. We have our eyes firmly on the prize and are expecting an answer, an appointment, a clue, a smoke signal, something from the island's Prime Minister. He did say to a group of journalists not too long ago, he said to them, "Why are you guys so excited? We're going to have a Commissioner of Police soon. He's going to be named." So, once again, we are eagerly anticipating the naming of the island's next Commissioner of Police by the Prime Minister, Minister for Justice and National Security, between today and the 15th. Now, don't keep us waiting too long, Mr. Prime Minister, because judging by the state of crime in the country, the island desperately needs a strong Commissioner of Police who is capable of ensuring that law and order prevails in Fair Helen. So, first order of business, everyone, I think, will be eagerly anticipating the naming or the appointment of the island's next Commissioner of Police. Also, on another note, we do have more pressing matters to discuss. And these matters, of course, stem from the Prime Minister's comments regarding the price of crude oil on the world market and how it will affect the price of fuel at the pump. Of course, yesterday I was eagerly anticipating the Prime Minister making a statement to that effect at the weekly pre-cabinet press briefing. But due to other circumstances, that was not effected. Well, let me put it bluntly. We didn't get to that part. We have not gotten to that part as yet. And so I am going to continue with examining the pre-cabinet press briefing held on Monday, because it is very interesting to note how these prices on the global front are going to affect our prices in country. Now, on previous occasions, the Prime Minister did explain to the public that when he compiled the estimates of revenue and expenditure for this year's budget, 2026-2027, the war in Iran had not started. And so the budgetary figures reflected the price of oil as it stood at that time. Unfortunately, since then, that conflict erupted. And as you well know, the Middle East is the world's largest producer of crude oil on the global market. And any disruption in the marketing, transport, and extracting of crude oil affects the price on the global market, and in turn affects the price of fuel at the pump, affects global supply chains, affects shipping costs, affects electricity costs, the cost of utilities, and the cost of goods on supermarket shelves. As a small island developing state, St. Lucia, along with many other global and regional jurisdictions, does not produce its own crude oil. We source our oil from these source markets, although it is worth noting that we in St. Lucia have no idea where our oil is coming from. We can only assume that it is being shipped in from one of many global oil producers, either in the Middle East or in the region. But still, the price of crude oil on the global front will affect the nation in many ways. So this is an area of concern for every single St. Lucian, not just St. Lucian, but every citizen worldwide. But in St. Lucia, our Prime Minister, Philip J. Pierre, has said to the general public that the cap that was placed on crude oil, or fuel at the pump, not crude oil, sorry, fuel at the pump last year, it was capped at $16 per gallon. Initially, he said that this cap would remain for at least the next 3 weeks. Now that the conflict in the Middle East doesn't seem to be abating, the Prime Minister has returned with a new how should I say this? A new edict on that front. He is saying that these prices, this cap that he had initially set, while it had provided a cushion or a buffer on the price of oil, that buffer is no longer sustainable, I guess. And he has said that the price of crude oil will soon increase. Now, of course, the Prime Minister has given us no idea as to when that increase will take place, or any indication of how much. But he has made it clear that this $16 cap will be affected in the coming weeks. But of course, in order to provide you with pertinent information, we must allow the Prime Minister to speak for himself and to explain to us, well, to address our concerns, because, I mean, we are all concerned, and rightfully so. St. Lucia has been stuck or experiencing a cost of living hike in recent times. And the cost of living in St. Lucia, it has not abated. It continues to rise, and we are expecting this upward trajectory to continue. So, of course, we need to know what is going on. We need to keep our eyes on the prize, and not just in one area. You would recall that there is a proposal on before the NUC, the National Utilities Regulatory Commission, to increase the price of pipe-borne water in St. Lucia. This was previously brought to the fore in an effort to streamline, update, fix the water and sewage companies' recurring problems. The question that we now need to ask: will this increase in the price of fuel further exacerbate our water problems? Lest we forget, guys, Wasco is heavily dependent on electricity for its processes, and those processes include the pumping, distribution, cleaning, and purifying of raw water for dissemination throughout the length and breadth of the island. Remember, we are currently experiencing a serious water crisis in St. Lucia. We need to find out if the cost of fuel, which in turn affects the cost of electricity. Don't forget that Lucelec uses diesel and other fossil fuels to generate the electricity that they provide throughout the island to every home, school, business, so on and so forth. And they also provide electricity to the water and sewage company, Wasco, that Wasco in turn uses to pump raw water from the island's rivers to their treatment facilities throughout the island. And then they use electricity to purify, to run their purification systems, and also to distribute this treated water to every nook and cranny of St. Lucia. So, now that there's a proposal before the NUC requesting an increase in the price of water, this proposal was tabled before this conflict in Iran came to pass. The question on everybody's mind, mine included, now that the Prime Minister is proposing to remove the cap that's on the price of fuel, will this proposal be for the NUC to increase the price of water production, or just increase the price of water? Will this proposal before the NUC be affected? Will St. Lucians now have to pay even higher prices for water and electricity? And how much more will these utilities cost? And stemming from this, I think a greater question that needs to be asked: will this now affect the cost of other utilities, for example, internet services, phone services, mobile services? So, we in St. Lucia, we deserve to know the situation that we are in. And the only person who can give us an indication of how these things will go is the one person who either isn't saying anything or is speaking in a language that we, the people, cannot understand. But of course, in the interest of transparency, accountability, truth, and integrity, we have no choice but to listen, sift through the clues, try to figure out what we are going through or what we are going to be facing, is a better word, in the days and weeks and maybe even months ahead. So without further ado, I take you back to the pre-cabinet press briefing to see if there is any indication that will give us even a clue, a modicum of information, some sort of solace to find out what is in store for St. Lucians as it relates to the price of fuel at the pump and other pertinent issues, and what we, the public, can do breaking news, St. Lucians. I don't know what is going on with this. Food for thought. Somebody just sent me, as you know, those of you who just tune in, when I started the show, I indicated or I reminded St. Lucians that today, All Foods Day, April 1st, 2026, was the countdown to the island receiving a newly minted, freshly cut police commissioner, or so the Prime Minister said to us. But I now have an update, and I'm going to bring you this update. And I always want to thank my listeners here and my sources, confidential and otherwise, for informing me or always being ready with the news or the updates as they become available. So I am happy to announce that Commissioner Vern God, his contract has been renewed for an additional 2 years. And the person is saying food for thought, but I'll leave this right there for now because it is Holy Week. Once again, Mr. Vern God has been reaffirmed as the country's commissioner for another 2 years. Now, this is the same Vern God who the Prime Minister, and you're going to hear the clip in a minute, praised for his data-driven policing tactics. And I want to thank Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre. I don't get much occasion to thank the leader of our country. But today, I want to extend my thanks to Mr. Philip J. Pierre, Honorable, for the first time I can feel comfortable using this moniker, Honorable Philip J. Pierre, the island's Prime Minister. Thank you, sir, from myself and every other St. Lucian woman for understanding why we could not accept and we could not allow Deputy Commissioner, and I say that with a truckload, not a bag, a trailer truck load of salt. Ronald Phillip to head the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. You have made the ladies of St. Lucia feel heard, and we appreciate your understanding in this matter. But I assure you, we will continue to be vigilant, keep our eyes on the prize, because in 2 years' time, we will be looking out to see who is going to pick up the mantle of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. And I assure you, Mr. Prime Minister, we will not allow it to be Ronald Phillip. But on this occasion, I don't know if All Fools' Day is an auspicious time. I don't know who the joke is on right now, if it is on the women of St. Lucia, on Vanguard, or on Ronald Phillip, or maybe even on Philip J. Pierre. But we do appreciate, sir, your understanding in this ticklish situation. So thank you. But on to brighter and better things. The Prime Minister has done us a good turn. So let us now do him a good turn and listen to see what the state of the country will be and what solutions he has put forth. What is his thinking? What is his strategy? How is he going to address the growing concerns of the St. Lucian public with regards to the price of fuel at the pump?
In March, at the end of February, you had a 2-year contract. We said that a new commissioner would be appointed by the 1st of April. The commissioner, anybody needs vacation, needs leave, I don't know why this seems to be getting such an unnecessary stir or a speculation. By the 1st of April is All Fools' Day, but you can change it. But probably by the 2nd of April, the commissioner will go, why are we creating so much excitement? That's not necessary. There's no need for all excitement, I can assure you.
But my question would be more so, what do you think or make of God's I guess his first 18 months.
So you need to give him
a review. Maybe a review.
Maybe when you see, you'll find out what we thought about Mr. God when the commissioner is appointed.
Okay. And then still on that point, I know he had submitted mid-UC a 127 steps to order, I guess, document, a thematic document of what the police would have looked to, I guess, fight against crime. What did you make of that document? Is there anything in there that really resonated with you?
Well, the 100 crime fighting, 127 crime fighting, very innovative. It won't be able to happen today or tomorrow. It's about time period. I know Mr. Gand was very technical. He had a crime management system that gave information on everyone who was in the criminal world, etc. There have been some very good changes. There's a crime, the drugs, gun, and narcotic gangs, and narcotics, which is working well. And Mr. God is very intelligence driven. So I think that many good things came over his 2 years, and we're looking forward to see what will happen in the next couple of years. But I don't want you to have all that excitement about, there's no need for that excitement about Commissioner of Police. By the 2nd of April, you know the Commissioner of Police is. There's no need for that excitement.
Good morning, Prime Minister. So, for my question, if you can go back to a little bit about the estimates, I know you kind of had, you already explained it during the last debate session, but of course the leader of the opposition's walk out during the estimates debates. I just want to know your views on that, especially with him not contributing.
Okay. The last time I knew the leader of the opposition was a big man. He represented his constituency for 3 terms. If he chooses not to speak, this is his prerogative. I have no control of the leader of the opposition. He's a big man who is a former prime minister. He's going the 2nd term as leader of the opposition. If he chooses not to speak, that is his prerogative.
Good morning again, Mr. Prime Minister. The gun amnesty program in February, 7 days, no guns were turned in. What's your take on it as Minister for National Security?
If you notice, I never said anything about the gun amnesty. I don't get involved in operational matters. The police will have to answer that question. I don't get involved in operational matters. I've never mentioned anything about gun amnesty. I don't know anything about gun amnesty. The commissioner and the police, they have their own policies, they have their own strategy, and you should not see because one gun wasn't collected, it was a failure. I don't think that's right. Not because of physical, but from my own layman's point of view, I don't think because a gun was not given up, that it was a failure. I really don't think so. I think we have to wait a while to see. You see, this thing is a very complex, and this gun situation is very complex. Some people have illegal guns, they think to protect themselves. It's a very complex situation. You know, we look at these things as if it's black and white. You know, there's shades of grey in that situation. I don't think it's fair to the police to see that it failed because one gun was not collected. I don't think it's fair to them. Let's wait and see what are the repercussions. I don't think so, really. But as I said, I was involved in the decision, so I cannot opine on what the professionals are saying. But to my layman's mind, as far as that's concerned, I don't think it's right to say it failed because one gun wasn't. I don't think so. I don't think it's fair to the police to say that.
Understood. Also, can I get an update on the water imported from Dominica?
What has not been imported from Dominica? And notice some guy says, you know how much rain has been falling? I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad you see how much rain that has been falling. And this is the thing. I've been driving and I've seen people doing that, you know. I've seen people now beginning to harvest rainwater, and it pleases my heart. And I've seen people doing that because if people would just take that mindset, just be that mindset, you know. I'm very happy you brought it up because you just set me out on my favorite topic. If people would just take that mindset, just come out from just structured thing about square pipes and begin to take that rain water harvesting seriously, you would see the impact it will have on the private lives, on the daily lives. So let's see. And I'm telling you, some people are doing it.
Now, the way the Prime Minister speaks about this rainwater harvesting, he's really opening up speculation as to whether or not the price of water will be affected. Because if you keep insisting that we should harvest rainwater, is that an indication that we are in for a rough ride? But before we talk about this, let's just go back to what the Prime Minister said with regards to Mr. Vern God. I just want to touch on it. He did have very high praise for Mr. God's tenure as Commissioner of Police. He said that he was intelligence driven, that he had a plan. So I want to find out, and that's a question for a later date, this promotion that just took place within the ranks of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, where reports indicate that a list of persons were approved for promotion by Mr. God, and a second list was compiled after Mr. God's departure on leave or vacation. How will this situation be handled? If reports are true that certain individuals who Mr. God felt were unqualified for promotion were then placed on the list during his absence, is someone going to answer for that action? Will Mr. God have something to say about this circumnavigating of his authority? Or does he even have recourse? Because the country, if I recall, and some of you might recall as well, a similar situation put the St. Lucian taxpayer in a very untenable situation years ago, and very untenable position. And we all remember the Grindberg affair, where reports indicate that a contract was signed providing Grindberg, Mr. Grindberg and his company, I am guessing, the right to explore St. Lucia's seabed in search of oil. However, this contract, we are learning, was signed at a time when the individual with the authority to do so was out on leave. And I am speaking, of course, of Governor General at the time, Dame Paulette Louise. We all know what happened in the aftermath of that unfortunate decision. And the financial implications that stemmed from this, which the taxpayers of St. Lucia had to bear. So these decisions don't normally have implications only for the person with the signature on the contract. In fact, in that instance, the Grindberg affair, the individual who signed the document, while they had the power to make that decision, to take it upon themselves to make that decision, they weren't the ones that suffered. It was the taxpayers of St. Lucia, the people of St. Lucia, who had to bear the brunt of the fallout. Somebody on the platform, WhatsApp platform, is chiming in. It says, but Angie, having thanked the Prime Minister, do you realize that every time the Commissioner of Police is out. This deputy acts as Commissioner of Police and performs the very same functions as the Commissioner. Don't you think that it's one of the same? Just take a look at the recent promotions which were made to the senior ranks, which is exactly what I was talking about. Recommendations are usually made by the Commissioner of Police, and Verngard was out. Okay, now you're saying it, Miss Angie. So you see why I can't thank PJP, Commissioner of Police, and this deputy in my mind is one and the same. God is there in name, and that's it. But in actual fact, and this is a question for many of the police officers here on the live, because we do have police officers listening to the broadcast. Aren't there 2 deputy commissioners? Where is the other one? Because we were told that in Mr. God's absence, the 2 deputy commissioners would take up his responsibility. Where is the other deputy commissioner of police? Who is the other deputy commissioner of police? Food for thought. On the Facebook platform, people are chiming in. Somebody says, at least we did not get a rabbi to be our commissioner, so our ladies can say hip hip hooray. Somebody says, you'll make the Prime Minister's head swell for thanking him on the appointment of the Commissioner of Police. Somebody says, Philip, do not blame the people or the nation on speculation or anything they're saying, and you feel offended by it if you were behaving, and you feel offended by it. If you were behaving like a man and like a prime minister, a serious prime minister, not a joker, people will not have any problem. You will listen to a prime minister and a man, not a joker. There is a time for everything, a time for a joke and a time to take things serious as a prime minister. So put that in your brain and smoke it. I don't think we should encourage the prime minister to smoke any part of his cerebral cortex. I don't think this is a good move. Please don't say that. We need the prime minister as sharp as he can be. And let's be honest, guys. Sometimes I wonder if the prime minister were in a box of crayons, which color would he represent? Somebody says, I heard Grenada's prime minister saying that same thing to his people. Harvest water. Well, I guess Grenada has a problem with Wasco as well. I don't know. I don't know. But we have to understand, guys. I do understand climate change. I do know. I'm not naive enough to feel that climate change does not affect the weather. We know the Earth has a long history of changing its climate, evolving. Okay, so I'm getting a response on my previous question from a preferred source. Says here, Wayne Shallery is the other deputy, and you know what's up with that. He's the senior deputy, and that's why they need to appoint one deputy to act as commissioner of police. So if Mr. Shallery is the senior deputy, why wasn't he appointed? Was he out on leave? More questions, more and more questions. You see, guys, I told you, even when Prime Minister Philip G. Pierre makes a good decision, there are always many, many, many more questions than answers. But I believe Mr. Pierre was testing the mettle of the women of St. Lucia to see if maybe he could get away. Oh, we have a caller on the line. Good afternoon to you, caller. You are on the air. Hello? Caller, I can't hear you. Are you there?
Good day.
Good day, caller. How are you?
I'm good, Angie.
Yeah.
Angie, I must take a little bite of that discussion there. 5 minutes.
Go ahead.
You're right that there are two deputies, commissioners. Ronald Phillip, who this time was called the acting commissioner for the first time. All other times he was the officer in charge. And you have the most senior deputy, which is Mr. Wayne Shalry. But do you know that the last promotion was signed by Mr. Philip? So food for thought. Why would the junior deputy be the one to sign the promotion? Especially, I told you the last time, my instructions are that persons that did not qualify on the previous submission of the promotion were actually promoted in the second submission. So now that Mr. God is coming back to work, the same persons he said that were not going to be promoted will be in his office. You realize what's happening there?
So what does that mean?
It means that Mr. God is left it's already budgeted, so unless he cannot make additional promotions, so he just have to live with that until the time comes when he needs to make promotions within the 2 years.
Is there any...
But this is not the first time this is happening, Angie. This is a common practice in the force where people take the opportunity in the absence of the commissioner. That little break, it can be 1 day, 2 days, the commissioner is out. Persons have changed lists or changed names, put their friends, remove that person, remove Angie, put Chico, remove Chico, put John. That has always been happening, Angie.
Wow.
You're dealing with people, and people have their friends and their preferences, and they take the opportunity to do that. Now, when the commissioner comes back, even though he quarrel, the promotion is already done,
And once it's been gazetted, there really isn't any recourse for the commissioner.
Yeah, well, exactly. And the people at the Public Service Commission are sheep anyway, so they will not contest that. But
are they even aware of these happenings, or do they just take the list as coming directly from the commissioner himself?
The people don't care about that, Angie. The people just do the thing, what they have to do, submit names, stamp it. All that is paper, paste, copy and paste. There's a paper and copy and paste industry, we in there.
Wow.
Those people sitting at the Public Service Commission and all of them commissions, what do you think they do? They just go in the file, take an old draft of a letter, change the date, change names on it, and submit it again. Boy, let me tell you, Angie. You're welcome to St. Lucia, man. But just one more minute, Angie. I heard Mr. Yeh on the sale of the King's Chin, well, Queen's Chin at the time, at VG Beach by the UWP government. What's wrong with you?
I've never heard of that.
What's wrong with this man?
When did this happen and it didn't make the news?
No, but this man speaks, tries to speak with authority on everything. He really does not know everything. He must stop his monkeying around, you know. The man speaks about everything, says he knows everything, he has a doctorate in everything, and the man knows nothing at all. Everything the man talks about, he's wrong about it.
Well, I mean,
but he has to find SLP, has to find somebody to blame. So they blame him, UWP, for selling the beach, basically.
was that beach ever
Basically.
sold? Was that beach ever sold? Do we know? Does he have a deed?
The beach was not. No beaches can be sold.
That's what I
But
know.
the thing is that, Angie,
But Foster, if somebody is going to make
yeah,
a claim of this nature, this person needs to provide supporting evidence. Where is the evidence? Where is the deed of sale? I mean, where is the land register to say that this VG Beach belongs to Foster Chico? Where is the evidence? It's not. Listen.
but again,
Hold on, Foster. It's not that hard for Dr. Hille to get. I mean, I don't know where the Ministry of Tourism, what building it is situated in, but I do know that he happens to be the Deputy Prime Minister, and the office of the Prime Minister is in the Graham Louisy building, which ironically is the same building which houses the land registry. So I would think that it would be easy for Mr. Hille, Dr. Hille, to hop into the elevator, press a number, go to the land registry, request the map sheet, the land register, and come and provide that information to the people of St. Lucia to support his claim that the beach was sold. Because if a piece of property is sold in St. Lucia, it must be registered. It could have been sold in the 1860s, in the 1690s, in the 1220s. The land register has that information. So where is the land register to say to the public, here you go, this VG Beach belongs to Foster Chico, and his family has held it since 1092. I mean, where is the land register? Mr. Chico, could you keep your construction for when you are not on the air, please? It sounds like you are mixing concrete. Are you getting ready to put pillars on that piece of the Queen's chain that your family bought in 1863? What is going on here? What is going on?
I'm so far from that noise. I don't know how you can hear that.
I can
Honestly,
hear,
I'm so
and I
far.
can hear the beeping of whatever microwave you're heating up your découché in. What is going on? Are you saving?
Okay, you are my undivided.
Are you saving your housework? Listen.
Undivided.
Are you saving your housework for whenever you call this show so that we know you are an industrious individual? Because there's always,
Angie.
and where is your co-pilot today? Your cockerel? Did he take the afternoon off?
You know, I had him for lunch.
Well, what a way to terminate somebody's contract, Chico. That is horrible. But you get my point, right?
Yeah.
You get my point.
Yeah.
If the Deputy Prime Minister wants to convince right-thinking St. Lucians that the Queen's chain was sold by anybody, He simply has to go to the land register, check the records. All of these things have been computerized. I know back in the 1800s, in the 16, the 15, and the 1400s, during the 100-Year War, when St. Lucia was changing hands 14 times, that these things were written down. But by now, somebody somewhere has gotten a job to sit down and enter this information into a computerized system. And if it is not at the land registry, the National Archives are a hop, skip, and a jump away in VG. And in fact, it's right next to that spot of land that he claims to have been sold. So, if Dr. Healy wants us to believe that the Queen's Chain was sold by the UWP, by the whoever it is, by the PPP, by the King, by King George V, by Queen Elizabeth I, he needs to provide the people of St. Lucia with a land register that shows, that backs up his claim. If that piece of land was sold by Carib Chief Little Bigfoot, and I don't know if there was one, it will still be in the land register. Dr. Healy needs to provide supporting evidence for his claim.
I agree. But Angie, there are so many landowners in St. Lucia.
Mm-hmm.
There are persons, landowners who own beachland property, beachfront property. Yes. They have their fence way on the required boundary. And in fact, there are some beaches that are accessible only by the sea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, unless you pass through the people land.
Right.
And nobody claims the beach to be, even though the land borders with the beach.
Right.
You can come from the sea and you can dock on the beach and spend the day there and go back on your boat and come around and go to your home.
Right.
Honestly, when he says that nastiness in Parliament, both he and Philippe, those guys know that they have 1,000 or 20,000 morons who are listening to them, you know.
Thankfully, not one of them tuned in to Hardtalk.
Yeah, so those guys get away with those things. You think Gillette don't know he's talking rubbish? That the King's Chain was sold, and not by us. He's quick to say, not by us, not by the SLP. So whether it's Cabot, whether it's a VG people, whether it's that one they kill long in the La Paradis, whether it's Galaxy, is who sell a beach? People don't sell beach. Whichever hotel is on the beach, there is it is common knowledge that the beach is accessible, can be accessible by anybody.
Right.
You know. Now you want to scroll back for mashing up a fence, but now you're going back and say Flabot sell the beach. So if people want to believe you, the VG people can come and just put a fence on the beach and say, well, Flabot sell the beach for them. So, boy, I tell you, there is so much ignorance in St. Lucia. And it's not the ordinary man. You see, when a man with a PhD is an ignorant man, this man is worse than, the biggest joker out, you know. When a man has a PhD, professor have a PhD, is a clown. This man is a dangerous man, you know.
Well, I don't know how to tell you guys this. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Some of you keep thinking that Dr. Healy has a doctorate in common sense, or maybe he has a doctorate, a master's in tourism, or he doesn't. He has a doctorate and a master's. I'm not sure which is which, but one of them is in politics and the other is in psychology. Now, when you put these two together, When you add these two ingredients into a mixer, politics and psychology, and you blend it up, you get a very cold smoothie in the flavor Mama Guy. What do you expect? The man is quite qualified and he is doing a very good job at what he is qualified in. In fact, I would love to see Dr. Hille get a St. Lucia Medal of Honor for foolishness. I would love to see that. I would be there on that red carpet. You know? A St. Lucia Medal of Honor
I tell you what we should
for Mama Guy in the public.
I tell you what we should give. We should give Philippe Anele the Nobel laureate for corn planting. You see, those guys can plant corn in the sea.
Well, I mean, listen, Foster, do you recall that there was a proposal for a certain individual to become the director of beautification of St. Lucia? Remember that? And
yes.
I know some technocrats that were working on his first parliamentary his first speech before the House, you know.
Parliamentary speech.
Yes. And part of that speech was the minister will acquire seeds so that he can see Megwen throughout the country. Maybe these two gentlemen were part of that proposed action. You don't know. But it's all jokes aside, Foster. Anybody who comes to you and says to you that this piece of land was sold, this is the easiest thing to rectify. This is the easiest thing. The Prime Minister always says, fact check. And if St. Lucians were fact checking, the first question that would be asked of Dr. Hille is, where is the proof? Where is the land register? You know, you meet at cabinet every Monday in the Graham Louise building. 5th floor. The land registry is what, on the 3rd floor? You can stop there.
Ground floor.
Ground floor. Stop in there on your way up. Find a copy of this deed and let us know the truth. And if it is that the land was sold, then the register will tell us. The register will say that Carib Chief Little Bigfoot in the year 976 sold this Queen's chain to Pilgrim Chico, and then Pilgrim Chico has been passing it down.
That was my grandfather. Be careful, you know.
I don't know your business. has passed that little piece of land down generation to generation. All of his family tree will be, I mean, you can find the family tree in the National Archives. The land, because whoever acquires the land, whether by hereditary or by purchase, they have to register the property. Letters of administration have to be provided. So, letters of administration throughout the generations will show who passed the land down and who owns it now. So, if Foster Chico sells it to Cockrell Chico, we will know. This is what the deputy prime minister has to do. Don't come and say, oh, the land was sold by so and so. Give us the facts. Provide proof.
Sure.
Provide supporting documents. And when you do that, not plain paper, not a land registry like they did in, because I remember when that whole parcel 11 and parcel whatever at Bannans Bay was being debated, as proof that the land, that the conversion was done, they simply gave us a piece of paper saying that parcel 11 was converted, but there was no land register to show us exact exactly what they were talking about. There was no map sheet to indicate so that we can see clearly what was said. It was simply a piece of paper, no signature. We don't want that. We want the page number in the land registry. We want the signature. We want to know who signs the letters. We want to see the map sheet so we know exactly which portion of the beach is it from the fort, because there is an old fort on VG. Is it the fort up to Halcyon or up to the Compre School or up to Beachcomber? If is the cemetery part of this parcel of land? We want to know. So please, Mr. Hile, provide us with the supporting documents so we can understand exactly what is going on.
Yeah, but he won't because he know the people will buy it and the people will drink it and he will just be laughing all the way to the bank.
Well,
anyway, Angie, nice show. I will continue to listen to you. If anything else I need to get to you, I'll do so.
Thank you very much. Yes. Okay, bye-bye. Somebody is saying here, caller Angie said to be nice, so I cannot say here what is wrong with Hile. Yes, please, be nice. Somebody else says, Hile just refused to speak the truth. Another says, wow, I have been saying that. This man is a very dangerous man and we should have a tracking device on him because we don't know what will be his next behavior. Okay. Somebody says, Angie, when you blend these two qualifications together, all you would get is a thief. The saying that a liar is a thief and a thief is a liar is not just words. We have more than proof that the SLP members are liars. Well, another person on the on the WhatsApp platform is jumping in. AA Angie, look, I hear Skerrit announced Dominica election for July 6th. It's All Fool's Day, so I'm not sure. Didn't Dominica have elections recently? I don't know. Somebody says Hile needs to get out of our government. So we've segued into the comments of the Deputy Prime Minister in the Parliament, but seriously, people. Somebody says, caller, that's why I call them Doc. That Doc is lying too much. Guys, when somebody makes a claim of that nature, it is not hard to fact check this individual. The sale of property in St. Lucia, the ownership of property in St. Lucia, all of that are a matter of public record. You simply need to go to the land registry. These are official documents. And even if you are interested in buying a piece of property, you are allowed to go to the land registry to figure out who you make the proposal to. These things, the sale of property and the registration of property, they are a matter of public record. If Dr. Hile was serious about what he was saying, he would provide the requisite supporting documents. If you claim the Queen's chain was sold, okay, you have our attention. Tell us who it was sold to and who collected the funds. Was it granted to that family by royal decree? Was it sold by a descendant of the original owner? Did the government sell it to someone? Did the Arawaks sell it to the Caribs and then the Caribs sold it to the settlers? We need to know. So, once you provide us with the requisite supporting documents, because the land register will tell us the day it was sold, to whom, block and parcel number, It will give us a map sheet, a drawing, where the roads are, where the access point is, where the beach is. All of that will be plainly visible. And the land registry has all of that information dating back to colonial times. So, Mr. Hilaire, come correct. Don't use your doctorate on us. Please. Have a little respect for the intelligence of St. Lucians. Now, again, every time I try to find out what is on the Prime Minister's mind in regards to the cost of fuel, somebody always waylays me or sidetracks me. But I'm determined to find out how much money is going to be coming off of my pocket in the next couple of weeks or days or months, whichever it may be, whatever the timeline is, in regards to the cost of fuel and the domino effect on the cost of living in Fair Helen. So let's see if Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre has any information for us, because I heard him talking about harvesting rainwater. This is a practice that we have been, as a country, as a people, engaging in since time immemorial. Wow. Somebody on the WhatsApp platform is chiming in. This person says, Hilaire has a doctorate in telling lies and deceiving people, but not me. Whenever he tells his lies, he beats his eyes like flies on a cow. The man is sickening, hence the reason they don't want Shas to talk. Another liar, Pierre. Hilaire, the people of St. Lucia, the hard talkers especially, they have got your number. They've even, they even look at your tells. He beats his eyes. I need to look out and see if the Deputy Prime Minister beats his eyes and listen carefully to whatever he says whenever he does that. Thanks for the tip. Okay, guys. So the Prime Minister is talking about harvesting water, which raises concern for me because, as I said, since time immemorial, the people of St. Lucia, and I'm not just talking about the imported people, aka the slaves and the descendants of the whites and whatever, the Caribs, the Arawaks, they harvested rainwater. The colonials, when they came in, they harvested rainwater as well. And then the slaves, when they came in, they joined the bandwagon. When the indentured laborers arrived here, they continued the practice. So harvesting rainwater is a way of it has become our culture. Every single, despite what the Prime Minister tries to say, every single household in St. Lucia, everywhere, you will find a drum, a barrel, a bathtub, a bucket, a calabash, sitting under a gouttiere, because that is what we traditionally call it. Everyone in Fair Helen harvests rainwater. This is not new. However, if St. Lucians wanted to continue the process of harvesting rainwater, we would not have convened or instituted or put in place the Water and Sewage Authority, which then became the Water and Sewage Company. We would have no need of WASCO. So telling us, in my view, to harvest rainwater whenever we ask about the water crisis is a slap in the face, Mr. Prime Minister. Stop your crap. We want water in our pipes. We paid good money for those pipes. We continue to pay good money for water, and we need to open our pipes and see it flow. Not flow the internet provider, the water. We need to see the water flow. So once again, let us know your plans to abate this water crisis. Let us know how the price of fuel is going to affect the price of our utilities and what St. Lucians could expect moving forward regarding the cost of living because of the current global climate and the price of oil on the world market. Let's see what the Prime Minister has to say.
I was passing some. I saw the guttering go straight into a tank. That warmed my heart. I understand the sales of tanks are increasing. So I'm coming. It's identifying. Have faith in the people of St. Lucia. Have faith in them. I think they are very discerning. I think they are very conscious, and no one can fool them. And that's why I'll go to Timbuktu for them.
Good morning, Prime Minister.
Good morning.
The Opposition United Workers' Party would have drew reference to the idea that three of your most senior ministers did not debate at the budget.
This also a big man.
Okay. Right. I have another question. Would you happen to know who represented St. Lucia at the WTO's ministerial conference? At the WTO's ministerial conference.
The WTO ministerial conference. This was when I'm not sure it would have been the Minister of External Affairs. Yes. But I believe you can ask him that question. He has not reported to Cabinet.
Okay. Okay.
Why can't this man just answer a question? Of all things, you notice the pattern, St. Lucia? I like to listen to the questions posed at the pre-cabinet press briefing, and I also like to pay attention to the answers. Whenever the Prime Minister is asked a question of national concern, World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference, a forum where the very questions that I am posing would have been answered, or some indication would have been given as to the fallout of this global shift in the price of fuel and how it affects global supply chains. And the Prime Minister does not have a clue. Let's take a break from the Prime Minister and turn our attention to the platform. It's tough, guys. It's really tough. Somebody here is saying politics and psychology, that's what he studied and has a doctorate in. No wonder he is so corrupt. The man knew what he wanted to do from a young man, to steal and play on people's minds and be corrupt. Somebody says, ma'am. Another person says, because he does not know the answer, Angie. Another says, do you believe that if more people were doing their research and calling out these government MPs when they lie to tell them they lied and ask them to stop, then they would lie less because they would know that we are following them? I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. I've been trying to figure out what's going on with the price of fuel. And the very forum that would have given us some sort of indication, the Prime Minister has no idea. Somebody says that's why he is getting away with every corruption. His training taught him how to get away. He cannot get away from God. Not Philip J. Pierre. They're referring to Dr. Hilaire. But I'm still trying to figure out what St. Lucia is going to do about the global fuel crisis. Where are we headed? Let's see if he says something else. Maybe somebody would ask a question about this. I have faith.
Thank you.
Just to press you a little bit, understandably the leader of the opposition is a woman, but what makes this walkout seem more important than others? Also bearing in mind that the SLP candidates, SLP members, have also staged their walkouts on occasion. What makes this one different?
That's what I said. And he never said it was much for religion. I told you the gentleman is a big man. He's a prime minister of the country. He was leader of the opposition twice. He's the third term representing.
Yeah, we know. That's not what we want to hear. What is going on with this oil? I'm going to skip ahead, guys, because I really don't want to hear the Prime Minister talk about grown men again.
But the leader of the opposition walking.
Come on, sir. Leave that alone. I've skipped ahead 3 minutes. You're still talking about somebody walking out of Parliament. What's going on with the price of oil?
When we sit on the dam, we want to pretend as if that never happened before. Again, don't get me wrong. I'm empathizing with the people solution, and I'm trying, and that is why I said that I will go to Timbuktu to get water for them if I have to. It's a serious situation around, but let's not pretend the first time it happened. But we have a clear plan, a free-going plan to help the people in Russia to get a better water situation. But in the meantime, I want to tell you to use these people to help the world to harvest water.
Okay. Prime Minister,
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. We're going regional now. Recently, with all what the war in Asia is happening right now, there's big impact on Cuba. I want to know what the solution or assisting Cuba in any manner.
We've said before that as far as Cuba is concerned, St. Lucia is working with CARICOM. As far as Cuba is concerned, we're very concerned about what's happening to humanity. We're very concerned about what's happening to Cuba, but we are working with CARICOM as far as Cuba is concerned.
I'm sorry. We are working with CARICOM because we are very concerned as to what is happening to humanity. Isn't Haiti part of humanity? Isn't Haiti part of the region? And correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Hasn't Haiti been in the full throes of conflict for years now? Are we only concerned with communist humanity? Or is it the fact that they speak Spanish? What is the difference? Sometimes world leaders need to be very careful with what they say. They need to be very, very, very careful. Very careful. Somebody says here, good afternoon, my glowing sister Angie. Good afternoon to you. This individual is always so nice to me. Thank you. Greetings from Wales. I am happy today, my day off. Listening to Tim's show today, Mr. Guy Joseph set the record straight with the standing order of the People's House. Sarah also debunked the PM bullying towards Shas. But most of all, our Integrity Prime Minister, Alan Shasney, contributed to the discussion in Mr. Lying Ernest Hilaire lies about King's Chain, etc. I was delighted to listen to their contributions. Angie, when you have a chance, please listen to our leaders on Tim's show. I thank you. I will definitely take the opportunity to do that. Somebody says, the man has been like that since in the NYC. He has been lying for a long time. Somebody says, Angie, I think at best you should just call these guys by their plain name and nothing more, because they don't deserve any more respect than that. It is very clear that they do not respect us. I wish there was something I could see to negate these comments, but the truth will always and forever be the truth. Now, again, the Prime Minister is talking about humanity and Cuba and whatever. He's talking about region. Let's see if he speaks about the price of fuel. This is what we really want to know.
And then, from the submissions that are in Cuba right now,
we said we're going to repeat ourselves that we are in touch. The Minister of Education is in touch with the students in Cuba, and if and when the situation arises, when the students say they want to return, they'll be facilitated.
Okay, and you're doing the budget right now, and with this war, you just mentioned that the war may last a little longer than until you suspect it might be lasting longer. What message would you like to send to some Lucians right now, but to prepare them for the long haul and what's happening with this?
Perfect question. Let us take control of what we can. Let's take control of what we can. There are a few simple things you can do. The idea of eating what you grow is a very serious thing that we can do. Simple things. And they may sound not big and extravagant, but there's simple things we can do. Simple things we can begin, each of us can begin now to plant our own backyard, see about our own food, reduce our own costs. We can begin to watch our spending. We can begin to watch our spending, see what we spend on. We can begin to prioritize our spending. We can begin now to look at what can we do to mitigate against the high cost of living if the war continues and supply chain gets in problems. So many things we have control over. We must deal with what we have control over. Things we don't have no control over, we can do nothing about it.
I'm sorry. I don't think the Prime Minister understands a great many of these questions that are being posed to him. Somebody here is saying, Angie Philippe doesn't know the meaning of WTO. You didn't hear his answer? LOL. Okay. So the Prime Minister says, in response to the question on what is your message, which is exactly what I wanted to ask. Thank you, Jerry, for posing that question. What can you tell St. Lucians moving forward in relation to this war? Because you just said to us, this war is going to take longer than expected. It's going to affect the price of fuel. I think I skipped over that part when I was trying to get away from him talking about the leader of the opposition, and maybe I should go back so that we can hear what he says about the war. But you're being asked a question. Control our spending, control the things we have control over, so on and so forth. Okay, great. Let us take a look at the things we have control over. He says, grow your own food. All right. Now, I know the Prime Minister went to Sunday school at least one Sunday, maybe in August. I don't know. But I know he saw or read or heard being preached the line in the Bible that says, man shall not live by bread alone. And I know people on here will tell me, but Angie, this is figurative and it speaks of the word of the Lord. I agree with that. But that line, man does not live by bread alone. What exactly, how exactly does the Prime Minister propose that St. Lucians control their spending? I know he said harvest rainwater. I know he said grow what you eat. Okay. While we're harvesting this rainwater, how are we supposed to purify it? Harvest rainwater, harvest rainwater, harvest rainwater. I understand. You're asking us to harvest rainwater from our roofs. This is St. Lucia. It's a tropical island. We have birds landing on our roofs. We have lizards, mongoose. You name it, we got it. Rats, mice, whatever you want to call it, running on the roof, especially in gas trees. Because you said to people, even if they live in the CDC, right? The people in the CDC need to harvest rainwater too, I am guessing. So, how are we to purify this water so that it is safe for consumption? We need to boil it, you will say? Okay, no problem. Tell us where, locally, when we live in the CDC, because you like to say that, where are we supposed to find cooking gas? Where in St. Lucia do they provide, or do they mine and distill, or whatever it is they call cooking gas? You don't have an answer? What was that you say? Coals? No problem, charcoal, I agree. So we now need to buy a coal pot, buy charcoal. Do we produce matches in St. Lucia? I don't think we do. Okay. You know what? That one might be. I'm just think about it, guys. Just think about it. Bleach. Chlorine tabs. Do we produce chlorine tablets in St. Lucia? Are these imported goods? Are these imported goods set to have an increase in price because of this war? If we cannot source sugar from Guyana or from Barbados, by the way, Prime Minister, Barbados is hop, skip, and a jump away from St. Lucia, but we have shortages of sugar almost every week. Just yesterday, somebody was asking me, where can we find sugar? There is no war in the region that affects Barbados. But we can't find sugar on supermarket shelves. Control what exactly, Mr. Prime Minister? Grow what you eat. Harvest rainwater. Okay, when we harvest this rainwater and we drink it, or we cook with it, and we contract any number of pathogens passed from animals to humans, foodborne illnesses, do we have a healthcare facility that we can go to? Where's the medication that we can buy? Aren't these affected by the price of fuel and supply chain issues too? Let's be real here. And even if we get a coal pot and we buy charcoal from a local producer and we boil this water on a kettle on a coal pot or in a black pan and we use it and it's safe, don't we have to go out to work? Do we make cloth in St. Lucia? What exactly can we control? Do the things we can control. What are those things? We need clothes. Kids need uniforms. Persons need clothes so they can go to work. Can we afford these things? Will we be able to afford it? How are these things going to be affected? I mean, I went to the mall recently with my daughter who was trying to buy a pair of pants for work. And she found this very nice fitting pair of pants with good material. And she says, Mommy, maybe I need to buy 2 or 3 so that I can have pants for the week. So I don't have to worry about washing every 2 days. And I said, yeah, great. And we say to the lady, how much does it cost? $175 for one pair of work pants. And that was earlier this month. What exactly can we control? We need shoes. Do you know how much a good pair of shoes costs? And the price of fuel has not even hiked up. Supply chains are not even interrupted as yet. The cheapest pair of shoes, work shoes, that you can source in St. Lucia is 90 something, or if you find a sale, 80 something dollars. And that's at Payless. A good pair of school shoes can cost you up to $300 or in excess of $300 for a teenager. What exactly can we control? You keep talking out of the side of your mouth saying control what you can, control your spending. How? How? When taxpayers have been bled dry in the past year alone, by your account, we've paid over $1 billion in taxes. A small deodorant that you used to buy at SNS, the Avon deodorant. I want people to know the deodorant, like the Avon deodorant, that we used to pay $2 or $3 for. A deodorant of that same size, when you go to the supermarket, runs for $12. Recently, I saw some Avon deodorant at SNS for $8 something. What exactly can we control, Mr. Prime Minister? You see, these are the questions, these are the things that people don't challenge. Harvest rainwater, eat what you grow. But is that all that a person needs? Are we to send our kids to school smelling that they just spent the night studying in the library and there were a lot of books around? How do we afford toothpaste? By the way, the large tube of toothpaste that you will want to buy because you think it's going to last you the month, $20. And I'm talking about Colgate. Nothing fancy, not Sensodyne or any of those things. Just plain old Colgate that we've been using since 1692. The cheapest one is 18 something. So still $20. What exactly can we control? If you like perfume, well, $200 and $300 for a nice scent. And these are luxuries, and I'm not talking about luxuries. I'm talking about bare necessities. A small bottle of mouthwash, $15 to $20. What exactly can we control? You cannot even buy a proper toothbrush in St. Lucia for less than $20. What can we control? How do we control our spending when the government has decided to turn every St. Lucian person into a cash cow? Bare necessities, people. Bare necessities. Listen, I can pay the price of water. So I don't need to harvest rainwater. And even if I harvest rainwater, how much am I really saving? How much? And how far do these savings go? Because before I sneeze, the government has sucked these savings out of my pocket like a vacuum. The things we can control. What are the things we can control? Please, Mr. Prime Minister, tell us. Because you're stuck like a broken record. Harvest rainwater, harvest rainwater, harvest rainwater. Grow what you eat. Really? Now you spoke about you bought 1,000-gallon tank. Hip, hip, hooray. You can afford 1,000-gallon tank. How many families in your constituency can afford even a 1-gallon tank? How many of them have Goodyear to put the tank under? Who are you speaking to when you stand up there and attempt to brainwash the St. Lucian public with this foolishness? Who are you speaking to? What can we control? There is no manufacturing sector in St. Lucia. We cannot say that, okay, we're not going to buy clothes, but we will buy a piece of cloth and make a shirt. VAT on the cloth, 2.5% levy on the VAT and on the price of the cloth. 2.5% health and security levy on the VAT and the price of the thread. 2.5% health and security levy and VAT on the price of the button. 2.5% health and security levy and VAT on the price of the zipper, the needle, the service that the seamstress provides. What exactly can we control? I really want you to tell me. These are the questions that the Prime Minister is not being asked. When you stand up there and say, oh, the things we can control. Like what? Like what? St. Lucians are not out there just throwing money in the wind and saying back home has plenty of that. We are controlling our spending. If you drive around St. Lucia, even on a Friday, there are bars that would normally be teeming with people that are empty because people are controlling their spending. On a weekend, when you go to popular spots like Glamity and Twists and all of these places, even Grosile Friday night, the crowds are less. By 6 p.m., If you walk through the city of Castries, there is nary a soul. You can't find bus on certain bus stops past 6:30. People are going home. People are staying at home. People are watching their spending, and still people are catching their royal and they cannot pay their bills. The credit union said to me when I was saying, well, I know I've been putting a little bit on my loan. As soon as I can, I will increase the payments, but this is what I have for now, and I just don't want my interest payments to go up. And the loans officer said, Miss Charles, don't feel bad. You would be surprised the amount of people who are in your very same situation. At least you are making an effort. We have not been able to pay dividends to our members for years because people cannot afford to pay their loans. And when they come in and they put the little that they have, we have no choice but to accept it. What do the people of St. Lucia have the ability to control? What? The only thing at this point St. Lucians can control is the amount of foolishness that they listen to from you and your government. We have no control over anything. And whether or not we want to say that we are trying to control our spending, there is no way that we can. There's nothing we can control. The cost of living in St. Lucia is exorbitant. Exorbitant. You cannot buy a decent plate of food for less than 15 if you buy a small one. Even the Chinese have raised their prices. Used to be that if your pocket was not strong, you could always eat a chicken chow mein to block a hole before you get home. Now a small chicken chow mein is probably $12 or $15, depending on where you buy it, a small one. And the large one is approaching $20. What can we control? What? Tell me. This is the reality. You are walking around with your head in the clouds talking about rainwater. How high is the price of water? Not much. You yourself said St. Lucians do not pay much for water, and that is the justification for Wasco being in such dire straits and dire debt. Your words, not mine. Wasco is in dire straits and dire debt, but you are encouraging St. Lucians not to use their services when the price of electricity is killing us. The cost of bus fares is up. We cannot even say we go in and buy a 60 by Armour anymore. Now we have to say we buying a $1. That's if it is still $1. It's probably $1.25 by now. Used to be that even if you were hungry, even if you were a child, you could always put together 2 10 cents and a 5 cents for you to run to the bakery and buy a bread to block a hole. You cannot even do that anymore. Certain places sell up one bread for $1. What are you talking about? Control what? Preaching the same foolishness over and over and over again. And yet, if it is so easy for St. Lucians to control, why is it that you open 4 offices throughout your constituency during the last election campaign to give out free tuna fish, free sugar, free flour to the people of your constituency. If St. Lucians had the power to control their spending and to control anything, tell me. Man. Anyway, let's take a breather and turn our attention to good afternoon, Angie. My God, teach this PM to speak because you speak very well. Thank you so much. Somebody says, PJP, I have enough with that eating what we grow thing. There are many people who cannot grow anything because they have nowhere to. What will become of them? Will you leave them for me to give them in the little that I try to grow? Somebody says, oh my goodness, really? Another person is saying, that's why some people are buying the cheapest groceries. That's not healthy for the body and they fall sick. They cannot buy what's best for their health. Somebody says there's a busted pipe right in front of the craft market in Castries opposite the arcade. I don't know if you know, but I am not Wasco. Somebody says, Angie, things are honestly so hard that I pay my bills every other month. All I buy at Massey is price control items. It is hard, and I am working. What about those who are not working? Don't even talk if you have a dependent. That's why people are not making children. Things are too hard. And that is the truth. That is the truth. The fact of the matter is the cost of living in St. Lucia is exorbitant. The Prime Minister went to the House of Parliament and told you guys that he siphoned $1.4 billion from people's pockets, from the constituents of Masha, Bacatel, Entrepot, Independent City, and everywhere. Those in Mikud South too, they had to pay. Me, you, everybody. He still want to come and pretend. Pretend. That's what gets me, the pretense. And the only thing St. Lucian spend money on is groceries and Wasco. What about internet? Right now, children are required to do work on their devices. So every child needs a device. Every child needs an internet connection. Do you know how much home internet costs? If you want high-speed internet, do you know how much that costs? And the Prime Minister is standing there talking a whole bunch of nonsense. Times are tough in St. Lucia. Things are hard. Somebody says, Angie, what a laughing stock. Why don't PJP buy the crops he have in mind for the people to grow? I really don't want to question Pierre's intelligence, but it's difficult to understand his thinking. Wow, only in St. Lucia this man can be accepted as a leader. Pierre, please think from the think tank. For example, don't brag what CIP money has done for the other CIP Caribbean region. Good for them. But you and your cabal don't invest a penny in St. Lucia. You're not even bringing it in the House of Assembly for a debate. It seems you don't give a damn. The questions remain. Where is the money for St. Lucia's CIP? The country and the world need answers because all are taking note. Watch the space. What goes up must come down. Easy come, easy go. God ain't sleeping. Another person is saying, I paid $10 for a breadfruit at Massey and it wasn't even a large one. Another says, giving the step workers $400 and people say spend less. Listen, that step thing is such a scam. The Prime Minister goes out and brags that he has raised the price of step to $100 a day. And normally, the persons engaged in that short-term employment program would have 2 weeks of work. That has been shortened to 4 days. The same amount that they were getting when they were working for 2 weeks. The same amount. Really? The same amount. And people are supposed to buy that nonsense. I used to work as a reporter. And when I got paid, I used to want to give my employer back his money because it didn't make any sense to me. When I saw my paycheck after taxes, after NIC, not even taxes because I couldn't afford tax. After NIC, I just wanted to give the man his money back. Because what was I supposed to do with that? By the time I budgeted bus money for the month, money for food for the month, transportation for my daughter, I can barely pay one bill. And I'm not the only one. That is why I have said over and over that there is a whole new class in St. Lucia, the working poor, and they are the ones that carry the brunt of the weight. It is from their pockets that the 1.4 something billion dollars was vacuumed in between 2025 and 2026. Because most people who are working are simply living paycheck to paycheck. You can't afford to have a child. How are you going to do it? How? All people are doing in St. Lucia is surviving. We are in survival mode. Survival mode. You guys may not believe me, but there are people right now going to work every day and can barely afford to buy a plate of food at lunchtime. Look around. They are the co-workers making a cup of tea at 12 o'clock and distracting themselves with work. Working through their lunch hour so that they can finish quickly and rush home before gas kill them for them to try and cook something. They are the ones walking instead of paying bus. People are suffering in St. Lucia in silence. It used to be that poor people could go and take credit in the shop when they run out of cash, so that they can have something to give their kids to go to school or for them to eat during the week. Now the credit for the same things, the same items, and they're trying to take less items now that they take during the week. It coming up to more than their salary. They can't even pay the credit bill and have something. They have to pay, they have to give up everything and stay without. What is this man talking about? What can we control? And I'm not making these stories up, you know. I know people who walk to work and hope they can buy a bake to eat for lunch. I know people. I'm not making this up. I am not making this up. People who can only budget for transportation for their children to go to school and have to hike ride and walk. I know people with vehicles that live in areas where the bus system requires that you have a vehicle, but they now have to pack that vehicle and spend hours on a bus stop begging. When the bus reach 15, 16, 20 people on one bus trying to get home because they cannot afford to put fuel in their vehicle, and if they afford fuel, they can't buy a tire. If they can buy a tire, they can't pay the insurance or the road tax, so the vehicle has to stay packed. What can we control? We need to wake up to the realities of life in St. Lucia and stop pretending that we don't see what's going on around us. These things hurt. When I hear this foolishness, it hurts. Who is this man talking to? Talking about unemployment is down. Down where? Or are they trying to say that people down the road are unemployed? I think that's what they are trying to say. There's no employment in St. Lucia. None. You have Renault bringing in hundreds of workers from India because St. Lucians will not accept the small sums of money that he wants to pay, or that he probably can afford to pay, because don't mind these big business people, you know. They're catching their oil. You as an individual who has a job, at the end of the month, your employer must find the money to pay you. Whether he beg, whether he borrow, whether he steal, whether he do bubble, but he must find the money to pay you. And he must find money to pay NIC, and he must find money to pay tax. So don't think business people taking it easy in St. Lucia, you know. The Prime Minister says every day that business people can't afford to pay the VAT that they collect. They cannot afford to pay the health and security levy that they collect. He has to give them tax amnesty because they cannot afford to pay their taxes. NIC is in problems with people for collecting NIC that they have. They are supposed to be taking off people's salaries, but they don't have the cash to pay it. So when this man comes and says, have us rainwater, what you can control, what can we control? It's almost as if this man does not live here. And then he makes a foolish statement about he lives where the real St. Lucians live. No, you don't. Because whatever alternate reality you live in, St. Lucians don't live there. It upsets me to my core when I hear these kinds of nonsense, and that goes out into the international sphere. People in the diaspora, they want news from home. And when they go and click on the office of the Prime Minister, that's the crap they hear. And that's why you see all that foolishness, like this individual who came out on social media talking about it's cheaper for the government to pay a badge to take water from Dominica to bring it to St. Lucia, as opposed to paying trucks to truck water from Vieux to Castries. Is this person for real? Who are you? Where are you from? For you to talk that nonsense. And even if it was logistically easier to badge water, why not badge the water from Vieux to Castries? What is wrong with these people? What happened to their brain cells? Yesterday I was walking through town. Last evening. You guys would not believe this. Last evening I was walking through town. I stopped to get a parcel of tomatoes and a parcel of cucumbers. I paid $5 for 5 small cucumbers, that length, in a plastic bag. $5. and $10 for 5 tomatoes in a bag. And then, to add insult to injury, because I wasn't bad enough, I am walking through the alleyway between the Jeremy Street Plaza and the CDC where the Soufre bus stop is, and some drunk individual pees on my foot. I swear to God this happened. I feel some moisture. I turn around. I see a stream of urine coming out of this person who is crossing the road with the equipment out, just splashing. People, the world has gone mad. This individual started peeing while they were crossing the street. Because everybody crazy in St. Lucia. And nowhere is that more evident than the election results. Control what? What can we control? Somebody please tell me. We can't even control our bladders. We can control our pocket. Somebody's saying here, but we voted for that, and sadly they also made a choice for others. They had a better option, and yet their mood was red. So I ain't sorry for them. I'm sorry for those who were forced into the situation as a result of December 1st. I'm not sorry for them, I'm sorry for myself that I have to see this, that I have to hear this, that I have to deal with this. This is what I'm sorry for. The Prime Minister of St. Lucia lives in some alternate reality. And I don't know where it is, and I just cannot tell you. Because when the man speaks, you would swear that it was all sunshine and rainbows in St. Lucia. You would swear that everything was fine and St. Lucians were... You remember that joke where they said, back home got plenty of that? Well, and they said the Bajan threw some US over the bridge and said back home got plenty of that. The Guyanese threw some gold and the St. Lucian pick up the Guyanese and throw him. I think the man thinks all of St. Lucia is on that bridge throwing money, saying back home got plenty of that. Talking about to control our spending. Which spending? Which spending? Is this man serious? Somebody says, I feel sorry for the people who work on the step. I don't know how these people survive, Angie, because nothing is cheap in St. Lucia. But I'm telling you, I am telling you, when was the last time? I don't know when the last time was that I bought butter. Growing up, my grandmother used to have these big containers of I can't believe it's not butter. I don't know when was the last time I was able to afford that, because you cut out all of these things. Who makes macaroni and cheese on a Sunday anymore? Who? Who can afford that? Somebody says true. Another says, election time, they were so excited about their step. Now they are singing a different tune. I used to drink 4 Cokes for a day. I can barely drink 1 a week. Because in some places a Coke is $4. Somebody says election time, they were so excited about their step. Now they are singing a different tune. Another person says the labor hacks because they drink the red juice. Another says, exactly, it's the truth. Who feels it knows it. Somebody else says, I'm in Wales and my children telling me that almost every day things are hard. Another says, yeah, it dread for true. Them red fellas living in an alternate reality. Another says, Pierre told us that CIP funds transformed Dominica. In St. Lucia, we can't even get a report. Sorry. This is the reason why I must ask again, is the I in CIP important or imbecile? Well, you know which one I think. Somebody says, these people have a pea brain. Another says, Angie, that's exactly how it was in 2014, 2015, and June of 2016 under Kenny Anthony. I remember clearly that the hotel staff had to park their vehicles on Manuel Street and ride with the bus because of the hardship that was upon this country. And that's exactly what's happening here with Philip Pierre. Another says, Angie, I feel you and it hurts. Here in Canada, the house rent takes a great portion of your pay, but we have free healthcare and low insurance prices. When I listen to you today and others on the island, my heart bleeds for you and fellow St. Lucians. However, we voted for this pain again. I didn't vote for that pain. I don't like pain. I actually voted for health insurance. Somebody says, in political reality, he is. Somebody says, I know of someone he's eating sardines and biscuits nearly every day with a soda. There's a hidden poverty in St. Lucia. It's not hidden. It's not hidden. It's widespread. You think the poverty is hidden, but it's not. The poverty has become the norm. I heard the Prime Minister talking about people not sending their children to school. And the first thing that came to mind is, can they afford to send these children to school? Let me tell you something. Y'all know I don't sugarcoat things here on Hardtalk. Do you know the linen shirts that you buy with the uniform shirts? Do you know how much one of these shirts cost? Just one. One of these shirts for any given school is upwards of $50. One school shirt. And most schools have light colored shirts. So beige, pink, white, yellow, cream in some cases. So you know you cannot have one school shirt because your child has to look presentable. When my daughter was going to school, I used to buy 5 shirts. The first year she entered school, I bought 5 shirts. The next year, I bought 1 shirt, so she had 6. So that way, whichever shirt that looking the most matchy, I can take it out of the mix. Or as they think, and every year after that, I would buy 1 shirt and make sure whichever one, the one that is the most fair or looks, because those white shirts or those gray shirts, after you wash them for a while, they start to look see-through. So then you can cull them out, but you still have enough shirts. That is how I used to do it. That's just the shirts. $50 for 1 school shirt. And I'm not just speaking about primary school or secondary school, because that's what you would think. You would think, oh, the secondary school, all the shirts. Primary, secondary, you name it. $50. If it's not $50 yet, it might be more than $50. The overall or the pants, $100. Or the skirt, $100. I kid you not. Go to Tees, go to Maraj, go wherever it is, Abraham's, wherever, and check the price. That's school uniforms. Those thick socks that we used to have in the 80s, we don't have these anymore. Those with the lines, the good quality socks that would last you over a year. We don't have that anymore. We have some little flimsy stuff. So you end up buying socks more often. Don't ask for the school shoes. The price of a proper pair of school shoes that will last you the term. If you cheap or if you cannot afford, budget $200. If you cannot afford. A school bag. A school bag. Before, when kids wanted to wear JanSport. JanSport was the in thing. It was expensive, $75. Buy a JanSport for less than $150. I dare you. Try and find one. Even if it's used. Now it's spray ground. A spray ground, if you can afford, will run you up to $300 and something. And don't talk about the school books. We're not talking about the books yet. I know parents that have to buy books. Have to start buying books months in advance, or start putting money aside to buy books months in advance. Or buy books, and not because the books are not available. Sometimes the books are available. But every paycheck you have to budget to buy one book. Sometimes the term ends and you can't afford all the books. Sometimes the school year ends and you can't afford to buy all of the books. And you want to talk about truancy? And on top of that, bus money depending on where you live for your child to go to school, just bus money, over $200. Okay, that's just bus money. I have not counted the lunch yet. I have not counted the snack yet. I have not counted the little projects that the children do throughout the school year that need Bristol board, file sheets, graph paper, and so on, markers, crayons, colored pencils, and so on and so forth. We have not gotten to that part yet. And that's one child. One child. You want to talk about truancy? Ask the question you're afraid to ask because you're afraid to hear the answer. Can we afford to send our kids to school? Can we afford? You want to talk about the state will pay one more GCE subject? Because you're so lost in whatever alternate reality you are in, you're still on GCE. But the 5 years that have to get you to the point where the parents will need help to pay CXE subjects, how does the child go to school for those 5 years? How? Where is the school feeding program that John Compton instituted in the 80s to fight malnutrition in the days of Clim and Sugar? And those of you on the live who are my age or older, you'll know what I'm talking about. Where are the school feeding programs that John Compton instituted in every school from the days of Clim and Sugar? And y'all know what I'm talking about. Where are they? Are they still around? Or is the Prime Minister just starting? Because I heard him, I heard him earlier this month talking about how he wants to bring the school feeding program as if he didn't take it out in the first place. And what happened to the school transportation program that allowed poor parents to pay a small amount, sometimes $30 for the year, and the buses would pick up the kids from home, take them to the school, pick them up at the school, and bring them home. What happened to that program? Where are those buses? Why was that program discontinued under a Labour government, restarted under UWP government, and then discontinued again under a Labour government? So that even if the parents could not afford transportation and food at the same time, but the state would provide one and they would provide the other. When you're talking about putting people first and control the things we can control, what are the things that we can control? Somebody help me, tell me. I am sick to my stomach about this clueless government talking foolishness in people's head and coming. Y'all know what I am talking about. Every single one of you know. Because y'all were there. Somebody says, St. Lucia has become mentally retarded. Another said, that's why people are not talking. They are so afraid to lose their jobs because things are bad. Another said, one pants is $80. Somebody says, school books, but you can't even reuse the books because the name change or a word change. And that's true. There's always a revised edition. Somebody says, worst thing is the pricks keep changing the textbooks yearly. Exactly. Somebody here is saying the SBA, it's not easy. And let me tell you something. They have introduced SBAs in everything, you know. They changed common entrance, which was 1 day of exams, to CPEA, which is SBAs upon SBAs upon SBAs. Let's not, the SBAs are so expensive. You have to buy material. You have to send your children to lessons. You have to do all kinds of things. And everybody wants their child to be ahead of the pack. Everybody wants the best for their child. Everybody wants their child to have an advantage. But how are we supposed to do that when the government believes that our job is to work hard and just give them what we have? The government of St. Lucia has become a church. All they do is pass around with a collection plate. No offense to the churches. I think even the churches are seeing misery because when the government finish with the taxes, the poor people can't afford church. Somebody says, oh, and I'm thinking to come back home. Better I stay in Wales. Another says, I had cream and sugar too. Yes. Another says, this is what SLP does. Destroy things, then start it back. Change the name so they can rewrite history. Another says, Angie, if you have influence, please do something about those who left the diaspora and came on island to do this evil to the citizens of St. Lucia and flew away. Another says, take a deep breath, Angie, and calm down. I cannot calm down. I cannot. Let me tell you something. I have elderly family members. And these elderly retirees, these people budget their money so well. Do you know that most elderly people who live alone, who can't really move around and do too much, these people have stopped buying the small tanks of gas and now buy the 100-gallon tank. And some of them have two. I have an uncle. He has two. My mother-in-law has 2. So they don't have to worry. They cannot pick up a tank of gas and go and buy a tank of gas. So they have these 100-pound cylinders where the gas company comes and fills up the tank or changes it for them, because that's what the easiest thing for them. Do you know that that's the first thing the Prime Minister raises when they raise the price of gas? Do you know that? The first thing to go up when the price of gas increases are those 100-pound cylinders. And most of the people who use these 100-pound cylinders are retirees and business places. So, the most vulnerable. Somebody says, Angie, is no longer a joking matter. St. Lucians are really sinking down in poverty, and this administration is doing absolutely nothing in making a better life, a better living for the people in this country. It's so heartbreaking hearing and seeing these stories on a daily basis. It's always these persons who want to kill and defend these politicians in power, while it is the same politicians who have them living in this mendicant dilemma. St. Lucians, please wake up and smell the coffee. Well, I don't know if you've been to St. Lucia lately, but we cannot afford coffee. And that's not a joke. We cannot afford coffee. Because the small packet of Nescafe, maybe this big, that if you buy a jar of coffee, you would open and pour it in it just to stretch. That's $10 now. It used to be 4 something. It used to be 3 something. It's $10. And the jar of coffee of Nescafe, the smallest one, is $15. The biggest one is over $20. What exactly can we control? We can't smell the coffee because we cannot afford it. The only people that can smell coffee are those, your grandmother used to have a coffee tree planted in the backyard. When that tree flowers, that's what we smell. And I even think people forget the smell of coffee. So they take in the smell and they don't know what it is. Somebody says, Angie, you're on fire tonight. Never heard you so upset like this before. I am upset and I have reason to be upset. Somebody says they stopped the highway project and as a result the pipes were stopped. Now PJP saying that they will be laying the pipes. Imagine PJP said it was 2 pipes. Shaking my head. 2 pipes? Really? Do you know that this highway project that they stopped, which would have cost the taxpayers of St. Lucia $15 million, is now costing us $117.96 million? And Philip J. Pierre is doing as if he does not understand. Somebody says, take it easy, Angie, before you burst a gasket. We need you. Another says, I'm not coming back to St. Lucia. Another one says, control yourself, sister, because I myself is trying. Because to me, I would say, go out there and send stones behind. Because this man, which I don't want to give him his title, because he does not deserve the title. My goodness. My goodness, my goodness, my goodness. My goodness. Somebody says, wow, Angie, we know what you are talking about. You are the voice for the voiceless. I'm sure everyone on the live are very emotional because they are stretching a helping hand to our families in St. Lucia. The warning sign that were there buying votes was a sign of poverty. The majority of the people didn't take heed. Now all are paying the consequence. People will have to get up from the sofa and protest. Silence will not help. I am mad. Somebody says, sister, the churches are reminding the congregation every week to bring the funds in. Neglecting that, many have lost their jobs since COVID, and hence the amount expected can't be the same. They tell you to have faith, but they, the pastors, don't have faith to wait. Another person says, oh my God, prices are killing y'all down there. Another says, that's a fact. Coffee, we cannot afford it. Because I am a coffee drinker. A large Nescafe is over $40. The PC packet is 60 to 75 cents. And that PC packet that's 60 to 75 cents is the size of your finger. And when you put it in one cup, is half a cup of coffee making for you. If you try to stretch it and make a full mug of coffee, you'll be drinking what your grandmother used to give you, Glow Cafe. Another person said, we were warned. Somebody says, we should demand that Richard and King pay the extra cost of the Rodney Bay Road since it was them who stopped it. And I second that motion. But are we ever going to get justice for this? Are we ever going to get justice? They keep telling us, I am the I in CIP, but who's I? This is the reality of the situation that we are faced with in this country. The reality. Taxi from waterfront to VG. And I'm not talking about the airport. $25. And you know that's a short trip because the bus charging you $150. $175, sorry. If you have to pay a taxi from Castries to go to the Urinary International Airport, you're taking a trip, you're paying over $200. Because the fuel alone is $100 worth of fuel to take you down there and take you back. What can we control in St. Lucia? What? And that's the fuel is capped. So just imagine what the bus drivers are going through. Just for them to provide this essential service that they provide on a daily basis. Just for them to provide that essential service. I have not spoken about oil. I have not spoken about coolant. I have not spoken about spare parts. I have not spoken about tires, brakes. I have not spoken about road tax, insurance, license, none of the above. And that $100 fuel, that's one trip. Is it any wonder that bus fares have gone up in this country? When PJP removes the cap on fuel in the next couple of weeks, what do you think is going to happen, St. Lucia? What do you think is going to happen when this man stands up there and knowing full well that he have his what did they say? Alan Chasney had his foot on the necks of St. Lucians. Well, if Alan Chasney in 2016 to 2021 had his foot on the necks of St. Lucians, PJP has buried the common man, lay down tiles on top of the burial, put a table and chairs there, a lawn chair, and he's sitting down and he's lounging while we are struggling to dig ourselves out of that grave. God forgive me. Somebody says, Angie, did you hear the questions posed by St. Jude's staff concerning the non-functioning services at the laundry and cafeteria? Nothing is working. Well, I don't know. I have no idea. I did not hear that. Another says, Angie, every time I hear somebody says that the government is working, boy, let me tell you, I get upset from the guts of these people. Guys, I think I need a break because I cannot, I cannot. I am telling you. I don't know what alternate reality our Prime Minister and his cabinet live in. And I don't want to be there. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to be there. But the truth is this. St. Lucians, we are in dire straits. And I don't even know how we're going to get out there because I believe that these people have messed up the country so bad that those 5 years that they have been in office, St. Lucia has been propelled back into the 16th century. And we have 22nd century problems to deal with. God help us all. Have a wonderful day, St. Lucia. Stay safe. Meet us back here tomorrow, same time, same place, for more Hard Talk. Bye-bye.